I was graduated as an architect in 1960, and that was a time when a lot of new construction was happening because all the cities in the world almost expanded. At that time, after the war, there were need for expansion, there were money again, and there was big initiative all over. And we saw the big areas done by the ideas of the modernists going up with concrete blocks as far as the eye could reach out in the suburbs. And being married to a psychologist, my wife and I, we started to discuss that it was really a shame for these people who were forced to live there. And we also realized that no knowledge was at hand to know about the consequences of building. How would the life in these new settlements be? So that made us have this decision to go into research. It happened sort of gradually when we did a study tour for some research grant, and then we did some articles, and then I was invited to come to School of Architecture to study. It lasted 40 years, and my wife was invited to come to the Building Research Institute to study the psychology of housing. I do think that there has been a problem for most of my work in this area of how people use spaces and how the life and form integrates, interacts. That has been maybe that many of my architect colleagues have been so obsessed by form that they really thought that it was waste of time to take any interest in the life and the interaction between life and form. That has lasted for many years, that they thought generally in School of Architecture I was wasting my time studying people when I should have studied architecture. But in recent years there's been a complete turnaround. Now everybody is very positive, and it has been officially decided by high bodies in Denmark, in the Royal Academy of Fine Arts, which is a sort of academic body, that public space and life is part of architecture. And also that has been decided in the Architecture Institute, that working with public life and public spaces is part of architecture. And that was a great day, because then they realized that then they could expand the definition of what was architecture. And they had this problem because they were going to give me some gold medals and stuff, and they could only give them for architecture. So they had to define what I was doing as architecture, which I always thought it was. And now I've been working in this area for 50 years, and now really somebody is writing a book about my life. And they talk about this new movement of people architecture, which was developed over the years and which have taken on and is going to be sort of recognized worldwide, where they have these books all over the place, and there are believers and congregations and small temples here and there where they use this kind of thinking, and I can see it developing very fast. It's an expansion of the traditional view of architecture as something with buildings. I was never in doubt that I had found something which had been overlooked for many, many years, and which was very important. So I was all the time convinced that we were onto something interesting. And I could also see that worldwide there was this great interest, maybe not so much among architects as among ordinary people and citizens and politicians who wanted to do something better for people. So later on, I would say that the architects also came around, and at this stage of my life, I have the great pleasure of being honorary member of architectural institutes in many countries, which is again a sign that I have been forgiven by the profession, and that what I have been doing has been found useful. Of course, in the story I can tell, there is a story of cooperation between different professions and different attitudes and approaches and cultures inside the academic world, which I think is increasingly important, and that is also taking off very much so. But there is another aspect which I become quite a bit aware of, and that is the aspect of communication of your ideas. I think that when I think of the people who worked in the area where I have worked, there have been rather many brilliant researchers, but we only know 5 of them, and they are the 5 who were able to put their ideas down in writing or in other ways in a very simple way so it could be generally understood. So we all the time talk about Jan Gehl and Holly White and Gordon Cullen and Kevin Lynch. There are just about some 4 or 5 people who are mentioned all the time, and they are the ones, not the best researchers, but they are the ones who had this extra ability to tell about what they did. And actually, William White and Jan Gehl, they were journalists, and they were journalists investigating interesting areas and spreading the word about their findings. And I really think that research and journalism, or some kind of communication skills, are very important. There are so many ways you can communicate your ideas today. So I would say that come out of the university and find ways to communicate your ideas. That is very, very important, because there's enormous interest among the general public about better environments for Homo sapiens in all parts of the world. And if you have something to say in this discussion, make sure that it is being heard. Spread the word. That's what I have. I can see now that maybe my main contribution, if we can talk about that, has been as a journalist. All the puny little research we did, but we were able to put it together and communicate it so that many people know about it. That's really the important part. There are 2 other guys who are good communicators. Yeah, I have no comments. That means that I met them several times, and I've spoken to the same conferences together with them, as I have with Jan Gehl and William White and you name them. Yeah. So I think that there are valuable contributions to the table about what is important in city planning in the 21st century.